I'm joined by Ajit Sivadasan, who is the GM and VP for Lenovo. Ajit, great keynote just now.
Thank you.
All about data. Lots of data, not all of it is useful. If you were to give a couple of tips to a marketer starting out, or looking for the best data points to measure in terms of all their data, what would it be?
So, the landscape that we find ourselves in is mostly digital, mobile, and increasingly social. And what it does is it creates a digital footprint for every interaction that's out there. And I think what we are really trying to do is figure out how to make sense of that in the marketing field, and quite frankly, across a lot of functional groups. In my mind, the biggest challenge people have is they're not precise in defining exactly what is it that they're trying to measure. And they run into and get overwhelmed by dealing with a very broad question and quite frankly, fishing for answers and insights which probably are very expensive to get to. So the first and the foremost thing people have to do when they're dealing with large amounts of data is to really define precisely the kind of problem that they're actually seeking a solution to. As an example, a simple question would be, what is the conversion for laptops on Lenovo's website? It's a very simple question, but trust me, even that is complicated. But the other question you could actually go look at is to say, well, we have all the data. We have transaction data, we have people's visits, we have clickstream data, all this other stuff. And we say, well, what insights can we get to? Now, we may get to conversion as part of the discovery process, but if you start by defining the problem to be a conversion-related problem, you would probably not look at a whole bunch of extraneous data that would probably mislead you. So the point that you bring up, which is there is a lot of data and you need to be disciplined, I think is key in every practitioner's in every practitioner's way of kind of dealing with data, because if you're not precise, you're going to end up chasing a whole bunch of data that's going to be useless.
Okay, one of the biggest kind of takeaways I got from your session was data is going to increase competition. Can you talk to us a little bit more about that and just explain why and how it will increase competition?
Well, what is going to happen is because there is a lot of data, I think what is going to really set apart companies in terms of their competitiveness is their ability to interpret data and the signals it actually provides. So think about two companies. A company that actually has a lot of data and it actually is able to make sense of it faster in everything that they do. Let's say marketing is an example. And because of that, they're able to optimize their marketing. They're able to manage their spend properly. They have creatives in market that they can pull off because it's not working correctly. And take the other company, which is actually not very good with data. So that's a company that's going to struggle because it really doesn't know until it's too late whether things are working or not working. So now you start multiplying this over a long period of time, right? You start seeing that one is going to be really efficient and the other one is not going to be efficient. So it can, in many cases, and especially in the case of companies that are truly digital, like e-commerce type of endeavors, it can be the difference between survival and actually making it big.
Okay, and what about creativity? 'Cause something like creativity, everyone is trying to be creative these days. Can that be measured?
It's an interesting question, right? The question, I think, is can you become more creative because you can measure them, right? So let me just put this in the context. Let's assume that we are talking about Picasso, and we're talking about two Picassos. They're exactly the same. They have the same level of competence. So they're both creative people. The question is, can we use data to make one Picasso better than the other? And my way of thinking is that the creative process becomes more and more interesting and more better if you give feedback. And the question is, if one of the Picassos out of the two gets feedback that his work is actually progressing faster in terms of, hey, it's good, or it's accepted by people, or whatever aspect it is that you want to measure, but it gives him feedback that is actually going the right direction, and then the other one doesn't. How does the other one even know that his creativity is going up or down or whatever, right? So now let me just abstract that to a more contemporary setup. Somebody sends emails, and you send two emails. One works, one doesn't work. The question is, can you continuously learn from the process of sending emails because you are able to measure and optimize continuously? And the answer is yes. So yeah, I mean, in a very abstract way, I would tell you that you can actually improve the creative process if you can actually measure in real time or measure more frequently than otherwise. So I don't know if that answers your question, but I think the creative process can be improved by measuring it.
It does, if only Picasso had data. Perfect. Ajit, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.